This story starts with a guy named Tyler. He was 23 years old and had just moved out of his parents' place. He wanted to live on his own for the first time. After a few weeks of searching online, he found what looked like a pretty decent apartment up here. Basement suite in a quiet neighborhood just outside of Ottawa. The rent was low. The place was fully furnished and utilities were included. It almost seemed too good to be true. The basement was part of an older house owned by an elderly couple named the Barrows. They lived upstairs and had converted the basement into a rental unit years ago. When Tyler showed up to check it out, everything looked fine. The walls were freshly painted, the furniture looked clean, and the windows, even though they were small, let in a bit of natural light during the day. Mr. Barrow was the one who gave Tyler the tour. He was friendly, but there was something slightly off about him. Not creepy, just odd. He spoke a little too fast and smiled a little too wide, like he was trying too hard to seem normal, but Tyler didn't think much of it at the time. He just wanted to move out and have his own space. So he signed the lease and moved in later that week. That's when he noticed something weird. In the laundry room, tucked in the back corner of the basement, there was a door. It didn't match the rest of the house. It was made of thick old wood, scratched up like it had been through a lot, and it had a heavy, rusty padlock on it. Tyler asked Mr. Barrow about it when he moved in. "Oh, that?" Mr. Barrow said, brushing it off. "That just leads to an old storage room. Nothing important. We lost the key years ago. Totally sealed." Tyler nodded, but he couldn't help feeling like Mr. Barrow answered too quickly, like he didn't want to talk about it. Still, Tyler wasn't the kind of guy to go digging for trouble. He figured it was just some old part of the house no one used anymore. Every old place has something like that, right? The first couple of days went by fine. Tyler worked nights at a grocery store, so he'd get home around 11 or 12, eat something quick, and crash on the couch. But on the third night, just as he was falling asleep, he heard something knock, 3 slow, heavy knocks. They came from the laundry room. At first, Tyler thought it was just the pipes. The house was old. Maybe it made weird noises at night. But the next night, it happened again. Same time. Same sound. Knock, knock. That didn't sound like pipes. It didn't sound like wood creaking. It sounded like someone or something was knocking on the other side of that locked door. Tyler sat up in bed, heart racing. He held his breath, waiting. But the house was silent again. He got up, turned on all the lights, and walked slowly into the laundry room. The air felt colder back there. The door was still shut, still locked. Nothing had moved. He even checked the lock. It hadn't been touched. Still tight, still rusted in place. Tyler laughed at himself. "You're freaking out over nothing," he whispered. "It's just an old house." But then, the next night, it happened again. And again the night after that. Always just passed. Midnight. Always the same. Knock. Knock. Knock, then silence. That's when Tyler started getting nervous. He started sleeping with the lights on. He kept his phone close, just in case. He told one of his coworkers about it, kind of as a joke, but also to see what they'd say. She laughed and told him maybe the place was haunted. Tyler laughed too. But deep down, he was starting to wonder, because he could feel it. Every night, as he lay in bed, he felt like something was just beyond that door, waiting, watching, listening. The knocks didn't feel random. They felt intentional, like a signal, like something was testing him. By the end of the first week, Tyler stopped going near the laundry room at night. He only did laundry during the day, with music playing loud enough to block out the silence. But even then, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was behind that door, it knew he was there. And it was getting restless. Tyler didn't sleep. Much after that first week, the knocking had become a nightly thing. Every single night, like clockwork, sometime after midnight, he'd hear it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow thuds from the locked door in the laundry room. He tried to ignore it at first. Told himself it was just the house settling, or maybe something to do with the plumbing. Old places make weird noises all the time, right? But deep down, he knew it wasn't normal. It wasn't random creaks or rattling pipes. These knocks had rhythm, timing, purpose. And most of all, they came from inside that door. By the second week, Tyler was on edge. He started leaving the TV on at night just to drown out the silence. He moved a chair in front of his bedroom door, even though he knew it wouldn't really help. He just needed to feel like he was doing something to protect himself. And then things got worse. It was a Wednesday night when he heard something new. He was watching Netflix on the couch, earbuds in, trying to stay awake so he wouldn't have to deal with the knocking. Around 12:30 a.m., his screen froze for a second. Just glitched. Nothing too weird. But when he took one earbud out, the room was dead silent until he heard a soft scraping sound. It was coming from the laundry room. He paused. Strained to hear SCCCCRRCHHH, a slow, dragging sound, like fingernails against wood. He stood up, heart pounding, and walked down the hallway. He turned on the hallway light and peeked into the laundry room. The door was still locked, still shut tight, but the noise kept going. A soft scratch, dash scratch, dash scratch, dot dot. Like something was behind the door, trying to claw its way out. Tyler froze. He didn't open the door, of course not, but he stepped closer. He put his ear up to the old wooden surface, his skin crawling. That's when he heard a breathing, not his own. Not from upstairs. Right behind the door. It was shallow, uneven, like someone or something was just inches away. Breathing through their mouth, Tyler backed away so fast he tripped over the laundry basket. He hit the ground hard, scrambled back to his feet, and shut the door to the laundry room. Then he locked that door and shoved a chair in front of it. That night, he barely slept. When the knocking came, it was louder than usual, more urgent. 3 heavy thuds, followed by a single soft knock. Like whatever was back there was trying something new. The next day, Tyler decided to do something about it. He didn't want to seem crazy, but he needed proof. Something he could show someone else. So he set up his phone in the laundry room. He propped it up on a shelf, pointed it right at the door, and hit record. He let it run all night. The next morning, he almost didn't want to watch it. But he made himself sit down and press play. The first few hours were totally normal. Nothing moved. The light stayed on. Silence. But then right at 12:16 a.m., the doorknob twitched. It wasn't big. Just a slight shake. Barely noticeable. But it moved. Then came the knocking. 3 slow, heavy thuds. And a few seconds later, something worse. From behind the door, he heard it. Scratching. Clear. Sharp scratching sounds like fingernails or claws dragging across the inside of the door. Paused the video and stared at the screen. His hands were cold, and he felt sick to his stomach. He played it again, zooming in on the door. The sound was faint, but definitely there. It was real. He showed the video to a friend later that day. The guy tried to act like it was nothing, but Tyler could tell he was freaked out too. "Dude, you should get out of there," his friend said. "That's not normal." Tyler wanted to agree, but where would he go? He had just moved in. He didn't have the money to break the lease. And technically, nothing had happened, not yet. That night, he locked every door. He put a kitchen chair under the doorknob to his bedroom and kept a flashlight and a knife next to his bed. But at 12:18 a.m., the knocking came again. This time, it was faster. Knock, 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 5 knocks. Not 3. Then silence, and then a whisper. He couldn't tell what it said. It was too soft, but he heard it. A faint voice just beyond the door, whispering something he couldn't understand. A voice that didn't sound quite human. Tyler didn't sleep at all that night. He sat in his bed, shaking, staring at his bedroom door with the flashlight on. He was starting to realize something. The knocking wasn't just a random sound. It wasn't a haunting. It was a warning, and whatever was behind that door, it was getting closer. After almost 2 weeks in that basement apartment, Tyler was barely holding it together. He wasn't sleeping, barely eating, and constantly jumping at every noise. The knocking from behind the old door came every night now, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, but always there. Always slow. Always deliberate. He had stopped telling people about it. His friends didn't really know what to say. They'd just tell him to move out or that it was probably rats or water pipes. But deep down, Tyler knew better. This wasn't something you could explain away. It felt personal now. Like whatever was behind that door knew who he was. Like it was watching him, waiting. And then one night, everything changed. It was a Friday. Tyler had the weekend off and had planned to sleep during the day so he wouldn't be as scared at night. He tried, but every time he closed his eyes, he'd picture that door. That thick, scratched-up wood and the old rusted padlock. Only now, he noticed something strange about the lock. It had started to tilt just a little, like it had been pulled from the inside. Tyler didn't want to believe it. He kept checking it, convincing himself it was just his imagination. But every time he looked, it seemed just a little bit looser, a little more worn. That night, he did what he hadn't dared to do before. He left his phone recording again. But this time, he stayed awake in the next room, just watching, listening. Everything was quiet for the first hour. But then, just after 2 a.m., his phone buzzed. He looked down. One new text message. It was from an unknown number. The message said only 2 words. Open it. Tyler stared at the screen, his blood running cold. His heart started pounding in his chest. He didn't move, didn't reply. But then another message came. We see you. He jumped up, breathing hard, and ran to every window. He looked outside. The street was empty. No headlights. No shadows. Nothing. But the house felt wrong. Like the walls were holding their breath. That's when he noticed the laundry room light was off. He knew he left it on. He always did. Gripping a flashlight, Tyler stepped slowly into the hallway, knife in hand. As he got closer to the laundry room, the air grew colder. Heavy. He opened the door to the laundry room and froze. Light bulb above was shattered. Just a faint buzz of electricity coming from the ceiling. And the locked door? It was no longer locked. The padlock was gone. The door stood slightly open. Just a crack, but wide enough for Tyler to see what was behind it. A set of stone steps, leading down into total darkness. He stepped closer, holding the flashlight up, shining it through the gap. What he saw chilled him to the bone. The stone walls looked ancient. They weren't part of the original house. They were older, almost like a tunnel, damp, dirty, and down near the bottom step, something moved. It was fast, just a flicker of motion, but he saw it. Something was down there. Something that crawled. Tyler backed away slowly, his heart thudding so loud it echoed in his ears. He slammed the laundry room door shut and locked it. Then he grabbed his keys, his phone, and ran out of the house barefoot. In the middle of the night, he drove to a gas station a few miles away and sat in his car, shaking, until sunrise. Next morning, he called the police. He didn't want to. He didn't think they'd believe him. But something had opened that door, something he didn't understand. The police came, along with the landlord, Mr. Barrow. Tyler watched as they all stepped into the laundry room. The door was still slightly open, and the lock? It was sitting on the floor, broken, bent from the inside. Mr. Barrow turned pale when he saw it. "I swear," he said quietly, "I thought it was sealed. It was sealed." The officers shined there, flashlights down into the space beyond. It wasn't a storage room. It wasn't a basement extension. It was something much older, some kind of hidden passage built below the foundation. One of the officers looked up at Tyler and said, "You were right to call." Later that day, Tyler packed up and left. He didn't care about the lease or getting his deposit back. He just wanted to be gone. But that night, in a motel 2 towns away, his phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Another message. "You left the door open." Tyler stared at the screen. Frozen. The number wasn't traceable. He showed it to police later, but they couldn't find a source, and the texts kept coming. Every few days. Just one message. Always the same idea. "Come back down. We're still here. You heard us." Tyler never responded. He never went back, but he never forgot what he saw at the top of those stone steps. Because it wasn't just a basement. It was a trapdoor to something worse. And now that it was open, something knew his name. Asterisk. After the terrifying night when Tyler fled the basement apartment, things didn't get better. In fact, they got worse. The police had come the day after he ran, searching the hidden crawl space beneath the basement. What they found wasn't what anyone expected. The so-called storage room wasn't just some old dusty space. It was a narrow, cold crawl space made of ancient stone and brick. The air smelled damp and musty, like it hadn't seen fresh air in decades, maybe centuries. But that wasn't the worst part. Down in the shadows, scattered across the floor, were bones, not animal bones. Not trash or rubble, human bones, broken. Skulls, shattered ribs, pieces of what looked like old clothing tangled with the remains. The police described it as a mass grave, but it was too small and too strange to be anything official. It was like someone or something had been using that space to hide bodies. Bodies no one had ever found. Tyler watched the police investigate, but he stayed silent. He didn't know what to say. Mr. Barrow, the landlord, was pale and shaking. "We've lived here for years," he said, voice trembling. "I swear I didn't know anything about this." But the officers didn't believe him. The crawl space looked too deliberate to be an accident. The bones told a darker story. Later, Tyler was asked to identify anything that looked familiar. The bones were old, so old that the police couldn't match them to recent missing people. They sent samples for testing, but Tyler already knew what he feared most. The space beneath his apartment was a hiding place for horrors long buried. That night, back at a cheap motel far away, Tyler thought he could finally relax, but he was wrong. His phone buzzed again. The unknown number. The message was simple. "Come back down." Tyler's hand shook as he read it. He stared at the screen for a long time, trying to make sense of it. How? Was this possible? Who was sending these messages? Then why was it telling him to come back? He never replied. He didn't want to invite whatever was behind the door into his life again. But then, he noticed something even more disturbing. On one of the phones the police found in the crawl space old, cracked, and powered off, he saw his own phone number. Saved. How? Days passed. Tyler couldn't shake the feeling he was being watched. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart jumped. And every message was like a whispered command. "We see you. Open IT again. You can't hide." He stopped going outside. He stopped answering calls. His friends started asking what was wrong, but Tyler couldn't explain it. He didn't even fully understand it himself. He knew one thing: the basement wasn't just part of the house. It was a prison, a trap, and something dark was still waiting down there. The strangest part was the landlord. Mr. Barrow. refused to answer questions about the history of the house. When Tyler tried to ask, the old man would change the subject or leave the room. One day, Tyler found a box hidden in the back of a closet in the apartment he'd left behind. Inside were old letters and faded photographs. They showed the house being built in the early 1900s, but there was no mention of any basement or crawl space. Instead, there were references to sealed rooms and rooms that should never be opened. Tyler shivered. He understood now. The locked door wasn't just a random part of the house. It was a boundary, a seal to keep something in, and by opening it, whether he wanted to or not, he had broken that seal. Tyler told himself he would never go back. But some nights, when the house was silent and the world was dark, he could still hear the knocking. 3 slow thuds. Knock. Knock. Sometimes he thought he heard a faint whisper just beyond his bedroom window or from his phone's speaker when no calls came through. He thought about calling someone for help, but who could understand? He had no proof, no way to explain what he'd seen. Just the chilling truth. Whatever was behind that door was still out there. Waiting. And then one last message came. This time, not from his phone. It came through the motel's old landline phone. Number wasn't saved. The voice on the other end was low and raspy, almost like it came from beneath the earth. It whispered just 2 words. You left it open. Tyler dropped the receiver, heart racing. He never returned to the basement apartment. He never wanted to. But sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and still, he wonders, what happens if the door is opened again? What waits in the darkness below the basement? And most terrifying of all, what if it's already inside?